Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody is somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Dr. Haynes has assembled a really powerful group of speakers and presenters today. We're going to tackle a lot of things that are relevant to us for what's going on for such a time as this, and also in anticipation for some of the things that we foreshadow may be to come. We hope that you will take this as an opportunity to sit and collaborate not only just with people that you know, but maybe some people who you have met or you wanted to work with for a long time, and share some ideas and things as we go along. And then after the panel, you'll see that a lot of things today will require you to do some work as well. I don't want to steal our presenters' thunder, because they have their introductions for their sessions, but you are really in for a treat. You already know how Dr. Haynes does, so you are really in for a treat. Dr. Haynes is going to get us started with some remarks, and then the rest of our panelists are walking in to join us.
I was blessed when our immediate past president of Alpha Phi Alpha, President Everett Ward, who's been a college president, HBCU president, and again, a brilliant brother. And he cast a vision of a political action committee that we fund ourselves so that we can get in this game and fund candidates. And I'm going to ask him to come forward right now and just kind of give you a brief overview of our vision, how you can be a part of it. Because again, we got to get in this game, y'all. And I told him this is game changing if we do this thing right. He's the right leader. We can get this thing done right. President Everett Ward, my leader, my brother, please come forward. Would y'all receive him now? He's going to share something that, again, I'm convinced is game changing. President Everett Ward.
Good morning. It is truly an honor to be here with you. I hail from the great state of North Carolina, and I see my fellow Aggie here. Aggie Pride, Brother Jackson, give him a round of applause. We began, and what Doc didn't tell you is that when we had the vision, we called him and said, we are thinking about starting a political action committee. The reason we started the political action committee, how many of you know of a United States senator named Raphael Warnock? All right, Raphael Warnock. You will remember that Raphael Warnock was in a tough election. And they selected somebody who looked like us, but not of us, to run against him. And we said, as his fraternity brothers, it's not enough for us to stomp and talk about the good old days and old black and old gold and crimson and cream and brown and white and purple and gold Jesse and blue and white. It's not enough for us to just talk about saying he's our brother. How much money are we giving him to run for public office? How many of us are out in the streets knocking on doors, making sure that he gets elected? And we prove to America, you don't select our leaders for us. We select our own leaders. That's why he's in the United States Senate today. And so what we decided to do, we got together and we said, let's put our own money together. Let us support candidates who look like us and who follow an agenda that is about our people. And so the Alpha PAC was started. Well, when the Alpha PAC was started, I am proud to stand before you today to say that all 5 fraternities of the Divine Nine have a political action committee, and we are working together as brothers because my message to the world, it doesn't matter if you were founded in 1906, 1911, the only thing that matters, doesn't matter what colors you wear, there's only one color that matters, and that is black. And we are brothers, and we are working together. And what I say to us now, Trump is just a reproduction of Strom Thurmond,
Right.
Jesse Helms, and George Wallace. He's just a new version. We beat them then, and we will beat them again. So that's what we've got to be about. We are working together to make sure that we elect the right folks at the federal level. So, brother, thank you. Doc, thank you. And we had a meeting, and all of us are going to be with the Rainbow Push Coalition. We are going to work together at the local level with all of you. And that's why I'm here today. Don't let us ever forget, but for historically black colleges.
Right.
But for historically black colleges, none of us would be here today.
We're excited to get more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. Now, if you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those who are incarcerated, you can do so. If you're interested in impacting public policies that benefit education and businesses with social economic solutions, you can do that as well. You can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. Now, if you believe in the scholarships that we've given to thousands of students each year, you can help us out. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. Now, you can help young people achieve a higher education by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now for the annual fee of only $35. And if you're a student or a senior, it's only $15. You can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. Now, if you watch us every week, or if you listen to us on the radio, or if you're viewing on social media, we need you to become a member. And how do you become a member? It's simple. Visit us at rainbowpush.org and press join. Maybe you'd like to support the work of Push. If so, it's really simple. You can do so by texting the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or you can call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. So whenever you want to support, you can do it from anywhere. So keep pushing, because we're going to keep pushing for you and keep hope alive.
Our first panel, I'm going to invite Pastor Mike McBride to please come up, and then we're going to also invite to the stage not only Pastor Mike McBride, but my beloved daughter in whom I'm well pleased, Dr. Brianna Parker. Dr. Brianna Parker has just exploded in this nation with her ministry of data and research. You ain't got to go to Barna no more. We got Brianna. And so since we got Brianna who does the work, and let me just give you how important her work is. Speaking at a justice conference in Cleveland in September, and afterwards, this white brother came up to me and said, I cut my teeth on the 84 and 88 campaigns of Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he allowed me to do data and research. And then he shared his data and research. He said, we've got 9.5 million, Pastor Autry, 9.5 million missing black voters since 2012. We got 9.5 million black voters who are still living, but they have not voted since the last time Barack Obama was up for election. 9.5, they didn't vote in 14, 16, 18, 20, or 22. They have not voted. Most of them are suburban. Okay, I guess you didn't feel that. Suburban, upwardly mobile, educated, good jobs. most of those who are missing as black voters, they in Frisco, Allen, McKinney, Plano. Not South Dallas, not Oak Cliff. Brianna Parker does the research, and for that we are grateful. And then, oh my God, Tamika Mallory. Oh, y'all don't know that name? Tamika Mallory, Until Freedom. Tamika did something that is a motto for justice organizations. Tamika, when Breonna Taylor was killed, and she was already in the streets doing it, but when Breonna Taylor was killed, Tamika literally moved to Louisville, Kentucky. Now, that's a trip right there because she's New York. She's straight New York. And she moved to Louisville, Kentucky, protested, and then Daniel Cameron had the nerve to decide he's going to run for governor. And Tamika moved back to Kentucky and said, you ain't going, since you dissed our girl, Breonna Taylor, by refusing to prosecute those police officers, we are going to stay here until you don't get elected. And she transformed protest into political power. And so she's going to show us how to do that. So Pastor Mike McBride, you come on up here, do whatever you told us you're going to do, and we're going to roll.
All right, why don't we clap our hands if you're glad to be in the house today. We're so excited. One of my mentors in the Bay Area, he's with the Nation of Islam, he told me when I was a little younger cat, he said that a disorganized truth will find it difficult to defeat an organized lie. A disorganized truth will find it difficult to defeat an organized lie. And that has been one of the key organizing principles for the work that we've been seeking to do through our network that is known as Live Free or the Black Church Action Fund or the Black Church PAC. It is a C3, C4, and IEP PAC continuum that allows us, as was stated by our brother from the Divine Nine space talking about the PAC, a Political Action Committee, the ability to ensure that we are activating every part of our community to translate political power from just talking to action. Now, what we have found across the country, certainly particularly in the last 20 years or so, is that every strategy that we want to implement related to addressing issues of gun violence, of poverty, of homelessness, of inadequate representation, we are not a community that lacks strategies. But we are a community that lacks organizing, coordination, collaboration, and I won't say resilience, but how many know, like, we get tired and we tap out. We elect folk and then we go back to golfing or clubbing or preaching or smoking or partying or whatever we like to do in our free time, and we let elected officials working, raising families, all the stuff. And then we let elected officials have about a 2-year run without ever engaging us again, unless something tragic happens. And then we're sitting there wondering, why is it that elected officials walked away from their campaign promises? Well, it is not because we did not give them a white paper. It is not because we did not give them our priorities. It is because we have not, as a community, I would say, figured out how to coordinate and organize all of our particular gifts so there can be waves of accountability that last throughout the course of elected officials' tenure, and it allows us to build political power locally with our community members and directly impacted loved ones so we can continue to do this work. This masterclass notion came up because what we understood is that we have churches, we have activists and frontline organizers. We want to argue that there is an opportunity for us to actually activate ourselves sooner. And so what this masterclass idea was conceived to do, we started with the Church of God in Christ because literally Bishop Talbert Swan and the presiding bishop and others asked us and invited us to come and help them think through how can their social justice ministry within the Church of God in Christ, how can it be activated? And we realized it was so powerful with the tongue-talking folk, somebody say amen, that we said we could literally take this to a lot of different spaces and places. And so this social justice masterclass concept, we hope to spend at least half a day in well over a dozen cities over the next year, strategically bringing together activists and organizers, data and tech folks, and preachers and congregations, and figure out, can we create hubs in cities and counties that outlast elections? And Rainbow Push, Until Freedom, Black Millennial Cafe, Live Free Black Church PAC, we are all committed in at least being some founding catalysts for that. We don't believe that we are the only folk that can make it happen, but we do believe that we need some folks that are willing to keep investing our own resources, our networks, and our energies until we can see some of this take root. And so I'm going to invite each one of these loved ones just to say a quick hello. In the Social Justice Masterclass, we usually would give ourselves about 30 or 40 minutes to talk a little bit about the power of each one of our particular work. We're going to do a little panel style, give y'all a little taste of it. And but also we want to create some opportunities for some question and answer at the end, because I think there will be some very provocative things that will be said. This particular political environment, I just want to say, is fraught with lots of hidden and visible landmines. And if we think that Donald Trump is enough to get black people to the polls to vote, you are deceived.
That's right.
And we will lose.
That's right.
And that's the truth that not a lot of people are willing to say. We're willing to say it because we don't want to have another Donald Trump presidency. But there are a lot of folk who don't want to speak the truth. They want to live in fantasy land. And fantasy land will get us a fascist president. So there's a lot of work we got to do, many of us in this room and beyond, to make sure that we are understanding the climate we're in. Because the fear of Donald Trump is not enough.
Push Excel strives to be a world leader in promoting educational excellence and equity so that every child is guaranteed an opportunity to receive a quality education. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. And you can help young people achieve a higher education by donating to Push Excel right now. Wherever you are, you can support our students as we keep pushing for you.
Attention high school seniors and college freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. If you are in need of financial assistance, Push for Excellence offers a variety of scholarships for which you may be eligible to apply. Whether it's the Jesse Jackson Fellows Toyota Scholarship, the Cirillo McSween New York Life Scholarship, or the Oralee Sanders Scholarship, Push for Excellence strives to offer something for everyone. Here are just a few of our scholarship recipients.
Hello everyone viewing, my name is Chidi Osakwe.
Dominique Davis.
Julian Jones.
China Mazum.
Miles Chairman.
Jalen Clark.
Marcus Anderson.
Jaden Reed.
Kari Young.
It's Megan Chu and I'm a Cirillo McSween Scholar.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for all his support of my college education.
Thank you for all of Toyota for helping with Reverend Jackson with the scholarship as well.
I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson for helping to make this scholarship opportunity possible for me.
As appreciative as I was before, I'm even more grateful now having received this scholarship.
Not only has it helped me out financially with paying for tuition,
but it has also awarded me the opportunity to learn more about the Rainbow Push Coalition and their different initiatives in the African American community.
I'd like to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for all the generosity and support that they've shown me throughout my undergraduate career and for the opportunity to pursue higher education.
For more information, please visit our website at www.pushexcel.org and click on the word scholarships. Thank you, and keep hope alive.
Sister Tamika Mallory, just say hello and maybe give folks a little bit of another introduction of Until Freedom and some of the work that you have been doing. And I know we got mice in the audience, so I know you give a little bit of acknowledgement to some people you brought with you.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, good morning to everyone who's here. And I just want to say that I am so overjoyed to be here with you celebrating Installation Weekend. To my friend, Dr. Haynes, Freddie as we call him. I text him Freddie. He's like, what? What do you want and where do you need me to be? And that has been our relationship, that every time, even before he took this important role on, we could depend on Dr. Haynes to send money and to offer prayers, time, and also strategy. And so it is great to see that he's in this role, because we are absolutely in a war. And I'm not sure that everyone understands how serious this moment is. You know, as I sit in rooms with family members, friends, and others, and folks are talking about a lot of mess. And I'm just looking at people like, I don't want to be Betty, what do they call it, Downer? Debbie Downer. But there's some serious stuff going on, and folks are not really talking about it. I'm so glad that you framed properly the danger that we're up against, and the fact that the idea that we're going to travel this country telling people but Donald Trump, it is not a winning strategy. And I know that Freddie understands that. And so the work of the Rainbow Push will continue. And I am so looking forward to the collaboration of all of the organizations, because that is a thing that is missing. It is missing so much. I remember a time growing up in this movement, growing up in the Black church that was connected, of course, to the movement, that all the organizations found ways to complement one another, even when they did not agree. We have entered a time when there are so many silos, so many people not working together, some folks trying to get to the White House and go to those visits, and therefore they don't want to be seen with those of us who are considered radical on the outside. Pastor Mike gets to go to the White House and be out there with the radicals, so you know, and he go to the trap house. Let me find out. we're a mess.
They are a mess. Yes.
And so many organizations, especially the younger folks who have really organized people, who really have power in these streets. They have influence, and they can move people. They have not been well courted, not just by the administration, but by our elders in the movement. And there is such a gap. And so I think this moment is allowing us an opportunity to bring it together, bring it back together, and make sure that our rooms and our tables are full of people who have all different types of strategies and theories of change. And so that's what I'm excited about. And I think that the work that Until Freedom has done, my brother, my son, Lennon is here, who is one of the 4 co-founders of Until Freedom. And the work that we did in Louisville, Kentucky is a model. We went there to protest, for sure, but when we got there, we found out that people were hungry, so we fed 4,000 people. We found out that folks were not educated on the issues, and so we had conferences and other opportunities, Thursday night meetings. We found out that people didn't even know who Daniel Cameron really was. Right. They didn't know who the Attorney General was, and they did not even know how he got there. Right. Perhaps some people knew a black man was in office, but they had no idea about his politics. And so we went and knocked on thousands of doors every Thursday for Good Trouble Thursdays in the name of our leader, Congressman John Lewis. We went out there and we did good trouble work. knocking on doors, informing people about more than Breonna Taylor. We found out that folks were hungry, and we used to serve, pass out boxes at the Urban League, and then we found out folks were shut in, so we start bringing food to the community, knocking on the doors, dropping off the food, talking to the folks, educating them about policies and other issues, and of course getting them out to the protests. And we built a strong movement in Kentucky. Right now, when we go to Kentucky and we call for people to come out to show up at events or to vote, they show up. They listen to us, because until freedom showed up, we did not just extract resources. We took in probably about $3 million in the summer of 2020 while we were organizing in Kentucky. We reinvested $1.5 million back into the community. We gave money to local groups. And then when we went back and said, it's time for us to beat Daniel Cameron, and actually right before that, we were able to secure at least 3 other political seats, local seats. So this is a movement that we help to transform the people, to get them out, to get them in the streets, to go from protests, which is important, to the politics of their community. And when Daniel Cameron decided he was going to run for office, I would never forget a news article came out after we did a press conference and we announced on Breonna Taylor's birthday, June 5th. And they said, where are they? They've done nothing. They're not going, it's just a bunch of fluff. They just used us to raise some money and they've done nothing. And I remember thinking to myself, when has Tamika Mallory ever said that she's going to show up to do some work somewhere and not do that? I'm coming back. And we went back, but we know our people are mobilized when there's a crisis. And so we went back for the last 2 months, and we stayed in Kentucky, knocking on doors, talking to people again, applying the same strategy to get people out. And Daniel Cameron got spanked, and he went back home, and he does not have a job at all because he's also not the Attorney General. And so, bye-bye, and that's that. But let me say this last thing. Every time I go to Kentucky, when I first went there, when we first moved to Kentucky, it was a pandemic. The whole town was shut down, and it was a culture shock to go from New York City to Kentucky in a pandemic when nothing is even open. And it was a very difficult experience for us. I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna let the people know the truth about the struggles of being in the movement. It was really, really difficult to mobilize and get people to trust us. And we did that work. And so every time after we left, every time I would say, I'm never going back again. I'm done with Kentucky. They go on social media and they talk bad about us. We love the black people there and they hate us sometimes. Sometimes they love us. And it was one of those things. Y'all know how black people do. It was rough and tough. Got into some physical altercations. I mean, it was really serious. I mean, this is the truth about what happens in the movement. Dr. Daniels, you know about this. Y'all been through these things. It was real, serious stuff. People are traumatized. They're hurting. So when you show up looking shiny, they want to know, who are you and why did you come here to our community? And how come you raising money saying you're going to help us? Where is the money? Right? And so Pookie and Ray Ray have the right to ask those questions. And there was some contentious conversations, and it was difficult. So every time I would say, I'm not going back. And then I said, after we win this election, Freddie, I'm definitely not going back to Kentucky. But while we were out registering voters, there was one thing that kept coming up. People said, well, yeah, I want to vote. I understand. This is black men. But I got papers. I'm on papers. I can't vote. So that was 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. So I asked one of the elected officials, what is going on? And she said, 1 in 3 black men. 1 in 3 black men in Kentucky cannot vote. They've lost their voting rights because of their criminal background. And I said, got to go back to Kentucky. So we'll be doing a master class in Kentucky.
The Spirit has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, set the captives free, heal the brokenhearted, open the eyes of the blind. That sounds like power right there.
Primary Election Day is March 19th. Vote your values. Get the information you need to vote anywhere in Illinois. Just scan the QR code. Are you registered? How do you plan to vote? What is on your ballot? Your vote is your choice. Use it.
Well, in the fight for voting rights, organizers had a strategic ally, Black women. And despite their invaluable contributions going back more than a century, Black women have largely been left out of the narrative.
And in Love and Alive's Karis Belger right now is bringing their stories center stage and showing how Black women today are continuing this essential work that was started.
Kendra Carter's office is full of reminders.
We are not an organization that runs on an electoral cycle. We are around 365 days a year.
And the work has a particular focus.
We build power for Black and brown communities here in Georgia, particularly focusing on the sweet spot of the age of like 25 to 40.
Carter is the CEO of the New Georgia Project. Founded in 2013 by Stacey Abrams, the organization's mission is informing and empowering voters using a well-established blueprint.
When you talk about the right to vote, even the women's suffrage movement, Black women were not elevated.
In the late 19th and early 20th century in Georgia, women like Adela Hunt Logan found ways to disrupt the structures society set for them.
A daughter of a Black woman and a slave master. She was educated at Atlanta University here in Atlanta. They offered her a teaching job, and she decided to go to Tuskegee.
There, Logan joined the Women's Club, dedicated to improving the lives of Black women, including the right to vote. A challenging goal.
Even as they fought for the rights, human rights, white women discriminated against Black women who also were fighting.
But she persisted in the fight for women's equity, as did Lugenia Burns Hope.
She was a founding member of the National Association for Colored, National Association of Colored Women. That was a network of Black women's clubs around the country that came together to really galvanize their power in the fight for human rights, civil rights, and women's rights.
Work that proved hard, but laid a foundation for what's still being done today.
Hannah Gebrselassie, co-founder and executive director of Protect the Vote GA. It's so important that we build off of the previous movements and understand where all the gaps were and how we can close those gaps. Because even Black women organizers in the past are historically underrepresented, they're historically underpaid, and our organization wants to change that.
Like Hope and Logan, Hannah Gebrselassie and her co-founders are among countless Black women, like Carter, finding new ways to engage voters in hopes of an equitable future.
For us, it's another election year that we are ready to step up to the plate, ensure that our communities have the resources that they need.
Dr. Brianna Parker is one of the only data scientists I know that loves the Black church, particularly the millennial generation. One of the few that I know that build national infrastructure to help us quantify. Dr. Brianna Parker of the Black Millennial Cafe. Let's welcome her.
Thank y'all. So good morning. Everything I do, I hope I do such a horrible job accommodating people who should not be comfortable that they would never invite me back. And I've succeeded. I've succeeded pretty often. And part of the way I do that is by exposing truths. Data exposes. Right. It is going to expose whatever is true. When I first started this work, if I'm honest, I didn't even see the value in it. I probably didn't until, I know it was valuable, but remember the Black church, it was new. So nobody was really checking for me in that way. We were working with politicians and being a pollster during the election, but Black churches didn't really see it was valuable. I knew it was valuable when the white tech company offered me $2 million for data. I said, we on to something. When I realized what they wanted to do with the data, I literally laid across my mother's bed, kicked my legs, and cried. Because I had to leave that money on the table. Because the only way you can do great work is if people trust the integrity you have. Because When I sit with data, I know more about organizations than they know about themselves.
Right.
But that only matters if I'm going to have integrity with the data and do the right thing with it. And so I'm grateful to have this opportunity. The first large project we did that was national was the State of the Black Church Study. Well, no, it's probably gun violence, huh? State of the Black Church Study, we had gone 21 years without any data on the black church. So that means everything you heard, everything you said, everything that was read was all anecdotal. Well, what I realized is that you can't take anecdote to the bank. When it comes to grants, when it comes to loans, when it comes to retailers who want projects, you can't do that without data. If you want a grocery store in your neighborhood, the reason you don't get it is because the data that you have doesn't work for the person who can give it to you. If you want clothes on the rack, they're looking at data. If you want to know why Walmart is such a successful, evil company, it's because their data is so precise. That they literally have better data than any other store. It's not because they're great. It's not because they do honorable work. It's not because they're good to their employees. It's because they know data well. So when we had the State of the Black Church Study, initially everybody thought it was about church, and we were working on the election. We weren't sleeping. When we did the study, 2 pieces of data came out that broke my heart. One was 70% of the black community and 75% of black churchgoers believed we were politically powerless. So you go to church every Sunday, and we talk about power, wonder-working power. We believe the power of God can heal us. We believe the power of God can send us running through a church. We believe it can shout us. We believe it can take over us and we can speak in tongues, but we do not believe it can do anything after we leave the parking lot. And that's not the kind of power I believe we believe in. And I don't know what kind of God y'all serve, and I'm not in your business, but I know we serve the kind of God that works Monday through Sunday. So when we get this data, we literally change all of our messaging. You know, Pastor Mike got out of juice, so he calls over to Sony, and we get literally access to their entire roster. I won't tell you who, but we had like people who were down with it, and then we had people who were like very much white evangelical, very uncomfortable. I was like, please don't stop talking to him. He's making them uncomfortable. So we're talking to Sony, and we're talking to their artists. We're calling in pastors. We're doing different small groups to say, we got to go back to an old message, and that's every vote counts. Because we told ourselves no matter what we did, nothing was going to happen, nothing was going to change, and we really thought we were beyond that type of thought. The other piece of data that came out that was heartbreaking was that young black males believed less in women in leadership than elders, boomers, or Gen X. So to say our future was about to be better was actually inaccurate. We were actually about to walk into a space where black women and all women would be barred from leadership because young black males did not believe in women in leadership. And that was our future. At that point, you have to do what? You have to talk to the people who talk to young black males, and that was older black males. When they changed their mind, when they became more open, when they decided to evolve, they forgot to go back and tell the people that they had talked all that trash to. So you cannot have them change unless you're going back to the mentors, having them have new conversations to let us in the space. And so we spend time at Black Millennial Cafe uncovering truths, exposing data so we can alert our community, we can make sure we're aware, and then we can deliver whatever it is that we need. For the first time, someone wrote a $2 million grant with our data to be able to benefit their community. And it was at that moment that I could live with walking away from $2 million that could benefit the data we wanted to do, because data is not free. It's like $300,000 to $400,000 a project. We could have done so much great work, but we would have set us back because they were using big data to decide how to keep us out of communities, to decide how to keep resources away from us, and to decide how to manipulate the black church. I said, God, I gotta walk away from this. I don't have to get rich, but I wanna make an impact. And I must say, he who promised is faithful, and we're grateful to be able to do this work.
People often ask, why should I vote? And
To be honest, voting is a sacred right. And if it wasn't so important, then there would not have been a distinctive effort to minimize one's vote. So while the 2024 election may seem far away, it really is right around the corner. So I want to encourage you to start thinking to yourself, do I have my voter plan together? Do I know where my polling location is? Do I know who's gonna be on the ballot this election? And don't just ask this question of yourselves, but I wanna encourage you to talk to your family and friends about this as well. Because here's the thing, voting is the one way in which you can actively participate in bringing about the change that you wanna see. But to be completely honest with you, voting alone is not enough. It is so important that those of us who can and are willing to do so, that we put forth the effort to assist those in our community who might have challenges at the polls. So if you are interested in assisting others, then I would like to encourage you to participate in election protection. There are so many components to the election protection program. We have a hotline of volunteers who answer questions for those who call in, but we also have an election protection program where we have poll monitors and we have poll watchers. And this is where you can actively participate in your community and be at the polls to assist voters and to monitor what's going on at all times. If this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to us at Common Cause Illinois, where we would love to talk to you more about the program that we have. As I mentioned, it seems like the primaries are far away, but they are just around the corner. So make sure that you're prepared and that you have everything together for you to be able to vote. And the very first step that you need to take to do that is make sure that you're registered. But please be an active participant in this upcoming election, and don't just stop at voting. Try to find some of the various ways that you can get involved, whether it's election protection or other programs that might be out there. And if you yourself are a voter who runs into issues at the polls, then please be sure that around election time and during early voting, that you reach out to the hotline, 866-OUR-VOTE, and someone will be there to assist you.
Just a quick recap. Tamika Mallory spoke to us about the power of protest, organizing, and transforming that into political power. A key part of how we think about this masterclass. Dr. Brianna is going to speak to us about the power of data, the power of narrative, the power of information. Dr. Freddie Haynes will be one of the most important voices as we go around, particularly to the congregation and the churches, to talk about the power of proclamation, the power of preaching. That we have many folks who speak and preach to black people, but don't understand the power of our words to motivate, to move them from paralysis to action, right? From analysis to taking steps that are liberatory and transformative. And so certainly, I don't have to cue you up, Pastor Haynes, but talk about the power of preaching and why this is such an important part of our masterclass concept.
And I love that because I want to piggyback, and I want to thank you for that segue, Pastor Mike, on what Pastor Parker said that really messed me up, and yet it's just so real, and that is what? 70% of church folk feel powerless. Ain't that a trip? We go to church, power, wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. And then when I think about the preaching they hear and what that power translates into, power to walk right, power to talk right, power to do all this stuff personally, individually, but never socially. Well, what about the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me because he's anointed. The Spirit has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, set the captives free, heal the brokenhearted, open the eyes of the blind. That sounds like power right there. And the same power, if Luke also wrote Acts, Dr. Brown, and Acts 1, Jesus says before he heads back to eternity, but y'all wait right here because the Spirit, but you shall receive after the Holy Ghost. Now the same Holy Ghost that anointed him to preach good news to the poor, set the captives free, heal those who are broken, and we got power to walk right, power to talk right. Well, no wonder we feel powerless because our power is individualized. And Jesse Jr., Dr. Brown, Pastor Mike, Brianna, Jesse Jackson Sr. messed me up some years ago to help me respond to what Brianna and what Mike just said. We're at a Push convention in Chicago. Reverend Jackson is addressing a group of ministers, and he said this. It shocked me, but I could not refute it. He said, most black preachers have a picture of Dr. King in the study and then go preach like Billy Graham in the pulpit. I went, culture, wait, what? He said, we admire Dr. King, and we should. After all, he changed the world. Talk about power. He changed the nation. He changed the structures. 64, 65, Civil Rights Bill, Voting Rights Bill. It was the reconstruction, the second reconstruction of this country that took power. When King goes to sign with or to watch the signing of the Civil Rights Bill, public accommodations of 64, he tells LBJ, we need a voting rights bill. LBJ says, I ain't got the power, I ain't got the votes to get a voting rights bill. They exit LBJ's office, Reverend Jackson, Andrew Young, Ralph Abernathy said, what we gonna do? He said, we going to Selma to get him some power. And we ain't got no power. We feel powerless, but we admire Martin King for his power. But Reverend Jackson says that we go and preach with Billy Graham's hermeneutic and Billy Graham's theology. Wow. So Martin King, power, changed the world. Billy Graham, let's talk about Billy, because y'all not feeling Billy, because this is a generation, y'all miss Billy. I hope his son is still living, and we got his theology that is handcuffing us. So Billy Graham theology is a theology. Here's what Billy Graham did. He prayed over about 10 presidents, prayed for them, but did not challenge their policies. That didn't get you. Billy Graham was so Christian that when he was doing his massive crusades, Mike, he went to Jackson, Mississippi. And in Jackson, Mississippi, he said, I'm so bothered by segregation, I tore down the ropes and we had an integrated crusade so black and whites could get saved together. Cute. Thank you, Brianna. But Billy, what happened when they left the crusade? They went straight back into a Jackson, Mississippi community where Jim and Jane Crow segregation told them what they could and could not do. That's Billy Graham theology. That's a Billy Graham hermeneutic. And I want to say, it hurts me to say this, maybe Reverend Jackson was on to something, and that is we admire Dr. King, but we preach Billy Graham. And just in case you think I'm stuck on the past, John MacArthur, one of the favorites of black preachers.
My God.
Most black preachers have all of his commentaries. John MacArthur has gone now on a rampage declaring war against what he called the heresy of social justice preaching. These three folk right here are heretics as far as John MacArthur is concerned. Amos Brown, you are a heretic, John MacArthur would say. Jesse, a heretic. Martin King, a heretic. William Augustus Jones, Tish, you a heretic, according to John MacArthur, because MacArthur says that our responsibility is to preach the gospel and save people, not change the world. That's Billy Graham tearing down ropes so we get integrated in church, get saved in an integrated church, and then go back into a Jim and Jane Crow world. No wonder we powerless. Because John MacArthur informs our hermeneutic. We read his commentaries. And Billy Graham presides over our theology. No wonder we are powerless, because our individualized empire gospel. I think that's where I need to go. No wonder we ain't got no power, because the empire has defined our theology and our hermeneutic. That's what it did for Billy Graham. So in light of that, I want to share just these things and I'm done. And that is, it makes me think about, so what is justice?
What is it?
What is justice? Justice, hesed in the Hebrew, which basically talks about restorative justice for those who are poor and broken. It's getting on the side. I think it's Alan Dwight McCallahan who talks about the fact that in the Bible, God is always showing up at the back of the line. Tish Dixon Williams says she always preaches from the side of the underdog, because that's who God is lifting up in Scripture. That's the hermeneutic we ought to look like. Shively Smith, a brilliant womanist biblical scholar, she puts it like this. When King James, old King James, a lot of y'all read King James. King James was translating into Old English the Bible we have now. The most popular translation at the time, according to Shively Smith, was the Geneva Bible. In the Geneva Bible, in the New Testament, the word that King James saw, the Greek word that was translated for justice, instead, he changed it to righteousness. I'm going to let you think about that. Because it's King James of what? The British Empire. So King James of the British Empire says, I don't want these folk wanting justice. I don't want them to seek first the kingdom of God and God's justice, and all these things will be added unto them. I want them to seek God's kingdom and his righteousness, because they'll make righteousness personal, individual. Whereas justice is communal, structural, and societal. And we have such an individualized concept. And best illustration, and Tamika, this messed me up. Our girl Taraji, a few weeks ago, was in tears talking about the discrepancy in pay for black women in Hollywood. She's in tears. And talks about how she'd been fighting for black women and fighting for black women. And then they interviewed another sister who's in Hollywood. And she's a good actor. She really is good. But they interviewed her and they asked her, you know, what she thought about Taraji. She said, well, that's her experience. It ain't mine. She went to Billy Graham's church. Because what she was saying in essence was, that ain't mine. That ain't mine. And first of all, she lying, because she's not making what Brad Pitt is making. That's number one. So you're lying and the truth ain't in you in terms of that. But then number two, even if you were making Brad Pitt money, what about everybody else? It's not just about how well you are doing, it's how well others are doing. We're talking about this year, this election. Some of us gonna be all right anyhow. I ain't concerned about me being all right. I want to know about all of us being all right. Reverend Jackson, I go back to him one more time and I begin to wrap this. Reverend Jackson does a sermon one Saturday on the Morning Forum called, and this is right in the aftermath of Barack Obama being elected president, and he goes straight to Esther. Esther is queen, and Reverend Jackson's sermon is entitled, But what about the rest of us? But what about the rest of us? It's cool that you got the office. But what about the rest of us? It's cool that you've been elevated, but what about the rest of us? Martin King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Freddie Haynes remix it. If you ain't got justice for all, you ain't got justice at all. And so no wonder we ain't got no power, because we have so many who are basically saying, well, that ain't my experience, because I'm individualizing my relationship with God as if Jesus did not say the greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you don't have love for your neighbor, you really ain't loving yourself. And if all you do is love yourself, you sure don't love God. And then that has to translate into public policy. So I'm going to quit on that right there.
March 19th is primary election day. Ballot question number 1 is about providing funds to help end homelessness in Chicago. Ballot question number 1 is a proposed change to the real estate transfer tax, a one-time tax that is paid when a property is sold. What is the change? RETT will decrease for nearly 95% of property sold, sales below $1 million. RETT will increase for less than 5% of properties sold, sales above $1 million. This change will generate $100 million every year, dedicated to providing affordable housing and supportive services for people who are homeless in Chicago. So don't forget to vote March 19th. Be informed, vote.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition.
We are sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of 2 words: social justice,
education advocacy,
political empowerment,
freedom and equality,
corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change,
inclusion, evolution, progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope alive. Alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward. By hope. Not backwards. By fear.